everyone, Danny here, and welcome to Spenelli Speaks. It is the end of the month, which means we are going to discuss all of the books that I read in January. Believe it or not, it is the end of the month. For me, the month did drag by just a bit, but I have been doing a little bit of different things with my kids as far as their sleeping patterns have gone, so it's been a very long month for me. But last night I got a little bit of time to myself, which very rarely happens, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I decided to pull out a puzzle that I have had for ages and try to start that. So I thought today we would do something a little bit different and we would do like a puzzling wrap up. So while I tell you about the books that I read in January, you can watch me struggle with a puzzle. So let me know in the comments if you have read any of the books that I'm going to discuss, if you have any recommendations for me moving forward in the year. I'm excited to continue on my 40 before 40 challenge, and we'll see how far I got into that coming up right now. Okay, so like I mentioned, while I'm getting started on this puzzle, I figured it was a perfect time to chat about the books I read in January because, frankly, puzzling just feels like the ideal background activity for a reading wrap-up. So let's get into it. January ended up being a bit of a mixed bag for me. Some solid wins, some definite misses, and a few right in the middle, which seems about right considering the pile that I read. First up is Apples Never Fall by Liane Moriarty. This is a family drama which exposes generational trauma and how family comes together, or doesn't, in a crisis. I read this both via audio and physical book with my book club Double Booked Co. We're reading through the decades this year, and this book fell into our first group of 2020 to 2025. I gave it 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed the exploration of family dynamics and the twisty turns and reveals that Moriarty really does well. But the pacing did feel a little slow to me at times. I felt like I liked this book more than loved it. But it gave me plenty to think about. And if you're interested in what we discussed in our live discussion with Double Booked Co., go ahead and check for the link in the description. Next, I read Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This is an apocalyptic story of a guy named Carl and his cat, Princess Donut. They are forced into this televised underground battle to the death by aliens who have a really twisted idea of what entertainment is. I read this as an ebook and rated it 4 stars. I had been recommended this title a while ago and decided to finally get into it. It was fun, chaotic, and surprisingly clever, but honestly, I don't think I'll continue in the series. I was impressed by the story. It's just not for me right now. Still an entertaining experience. I continued my Stormlight journey with Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the series and continues to follow our characters through their warring with the Parshendi, as well as their search for the Knights Radiant. I listened to this on audio and gave it 4 stars. No surprises here. It was epic, immersive, and emotionally intense. The character development really stood out for me. I found myself loving characters that I didn't before. And the audiobook made this massive book feel very approachable. I highly recommend consuming Sanderson via audiobook if you can. I also read The Old Nurse's Story by Elizabeth Gaskell as part of my 40 before 40 challenge. 1 down, yay! I read this physically and gave it 3 stars. This was a quiet, atmospheric little gothic story, creepy in a subtle way rather than outright scary. I enjoyed the mood and the setting more than the plot, but it was a solid read. It gave me Turn of the Screw vibes. Easy one-sitting story. On the nonfiction side, I read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins as an ebook and rated it 3 stars. This focused on giving up control that you give other people over your own emotions. There were some helpful reminders and moments that I resonated with. I felt it was a little repetitive, though. And there was a whole section on dating that just felt really off-brand for the rest of the book, but who am I to judge? Thankful to have read it. I also listened to Stop Letting Everyone Affect You by Daniel Chidiac, I think I'm saying that right, which ended up being a 2.5 star read. There were a few ideas I appreciated, but overall it felt really repetitive and a bit surface level. Similar concepts to the Robbins book, but very brief in its execution. For fantasy romance, I tried Filthy Rich Fae by Geneva Lee on audio and gave it 2 stars. I love the concept, human unknowingly gives her soul for her brothers and finds out there's more to her captor than she originally believes. Yada yada. But the execution did not quite land for me. It just didn't fully grab my attention. The burn was too slow, and it felt like the author was expecting the reader to be dumb and unable to figure anything out. It was a little disappointing. Ugh. And then there's Attraction by Penny Reid, which I also listened to on audio. I gave it 1 star. This was just completely missed the mark for me. The characters, the romance, the overall vibe, it was just a no across the board. Moving on. Ending on a high note, I listened to I Am the Messenger by Markus Zusak. This is also part of my 40 Before 40 challenge. This follows a young man who is prompted to complete certain tasks, some good, some bad, throughout his village via these playing cards he gets through the mail. We see the impact of these tasks both to the people he interacts with as well as himself. I gave it 4 stars. This one really stuck with me. It was thought-provoking, emotional, quietly powerful in a way that Zusak does really well. If you've read The Book Thief, then you know what I mean. Great way to wrap up the month. Still in progress, I'm about halfway through the Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver, which is part of my 40 Before 40 challenge, and I'm also reading Serum by Edward Rutherford, as well as Angels and Demons by Dan Brown with Laura from Book Bubbler. Those are some buddy reads we're working on. So in total, that's 10 books read, with 1 on the way to being finished. If you're interested in following any of these in real time, please feel free to follow me on Goodreads. I'll put the link in the description so that we can connect there. And honestly, now I'm just going to keep working on this puzzle as I pretend to know exactly where the pieces go. Oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd like to keep updated on. Obviously, I didn't get very far. It was kind of frustrating because I haven't done puzzles in a long time, and that is quite an intricate puzzle. 1,000 pieces, and every piece is very detailed. So I think that's going to take me some time, but I'm excited because I do love puzzling, and it's a really beautiful puzzle. So I'm excited for when it's done. I'll probably glue it together, frame it, and get it up on the wall downstairs by all of my other bookish things. So again, let me know in the comments if there are any books that you wanted to discuss within the books that I just mentioned, or if you have any recommendations for me. Other than that, I hope you all are reading something fantastic, taking care, staying safe, and as always, you know how it goes. Happy reading. Bye.